Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to StarCraft 2 Strategy, and also welcome back to Community Spotlight. It's been quite some time since the last Community Spotlight, and I did want to make sure that I started implementing this again. It's definitely something I enjoyed doing, especially I think it can be of quite some benefit to you guys in the community. The main reason I had stopped is because with my current computer, it really, the amount of time it takes to process videos really limits the amount of work I can produce in one day. But I do have the parts of my new computer coming in today, so I should be able to produce much more content, much more frequently for you guys. But enough about that, let's get right into it. So Community Spotlight, what is it? Well, basically we take a look at the replays that you guys in the community send to me, and we look at things in your gameplay that could use an improvement, and we also talk about some of the good things that you're doing. Basically we just look at your gameplay and critique it in general. I think this can be of great benefit to you guys, and that's definitely the reason why I would like to continue doing this. So today we're looking at a replay from our friend Ashford here. He was a self-proclaimed humble bronze level player, as he says. Right off the bat, something that I will say is that this scout is sent out quite a bit too early. Ideally, you want to send your first scout out after this 10 supply depot is built. Essentially, this is just the benefit it provides you doesn't offset the amount of economic damage it causes from pulling him off the line so early. And you're not going to get there and see anything really worthwhile that you wouldn't see if you just left with that SCV that built that 10 supply depot. So right off the bat, that's something that I would say. You can definitely get away with just moving out after the supply depot. There's just too much harm in bringing out the SCV this early in the game. So far you see something pretty standard, nothing too fancy going on here. But something I do want to note is if we're going to actually pause this here, I'm not going to make a habit of pausing my replays just because it's not how I enjoy casting. But what I want to mention is that we saw this probe move in here, okay? So you see this probe in your base, he's moving around. And something you need to note is that he's in your vision, and then, you know, after dancing around for a moment, he just kind of disappears. That's something you want to avoid happening. If you see any unit of your opponent move into your base and you lose vision on him, you need to make sure you retain vision. You need to make sure you get that vision back, because lots of funny stuff can happen when units are in your base and you don't know what they're doing. So you definitely want to make sure that you see what's going on. And actually, if I hit the everyone key here, you will see that there's a fun little pylon here in your base, but really not so fun for you, because this pylon means that his intentions are probably malicious. He plans on building something in your base that you're not likely to enjoy, so definitely want to take note of that. You want to make sure you maintain scouting and maintain vision on anything inside of your base. So far, looking pretty standard. This orbital command you would like to see pretty much immediately after the barracks goes down. And as far as timing is concerned, you usually see 10 depot, 12 barracks, 13 refinery, and then when the barracks is done, you build a marine right away. That puts you at 16 supply, and then you can get this command center. There was just a little bit of a delay on that right there. So in his base now, you see a gateway and a forge. This is very not standard. You are not likely to see a forge this early, especially the fact that there's no cybernetics core. That should leave you to wonder that something fancy is probably going on, something not too fun for you is probably going on. So immediately in just seeing that, I think the immediate response should be to grab an SCV and to scout all the dark corners of your base, just to see what his intentions are, because that forge is really no reason for him to have it this early. So at this point you do see, in dropping this build in, it extends your vision just a little bit, and you do see that there's something warping in here. And obviously, look, even just looking at the mini-map, you can see that red splotch there, so you need to check out what that is almost immediately. And when you do with these marines, you are going to see that there are some cannons warping in. So at this point, you have a few possible responses. Well, first and foremost, you would like to try to kill that. Probe, prevent him from building anything else in his base. I would continue scouting with this SCV just to check out what's going on, see what else he's got planned up here. It really, so far, doesn't look like he even had any zealots out, so no threat to you personally. So a few things to note: cannon rushes, especially as Terran, this should not inhibit you nearly as much as it does your opponent. Basically, this is so resource intensive, especially since he's not even doing it properly. And it's just, I mean, it's just a bad idea in general. Cannon rushes are not good, especially once you know how to combat them. So you don't really need to stop any mining at all. until these cannons here get within range of your SCVs. And then once they do, you can just lift off your orbital command and move it, and then take your SCVs with you. So something else I want to note just in general about the gameplay here is that this SCV production has stopped. I'm going to tell you that pretty much you should never stop SCV production until you have later in the game 3 or 4 bases fully saturated. There's really very little reason to stop SCV production ever. And people talk about full saturation. Well, shouldn't you stop when you're fully saturated? Not necessarily, because if you continue production of your SCVs, what's going to happen is as soon as you do expand, you can fully saturate that expansion as well. The benefits are just too great to ever stop SCV production as Terran. A little bit different with Zerg, obviously, because of larva and the way the race functions. You can't constantly produce drones, but as Terran and as well with Protoss, you should constantly produce workers throughout the game. So I mean, at this point, definitely seeing some interesting play. In fact, part of the reason that I did take this replay is because our friend Ashford here does some pretty inventive things that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of. I'm not going to say it's the best response, but it's a response and it works out for him. So this guy, he's got cannons in your base. He's kind of being a nuisance. Now at this point, now that he's starting to hit your workers, my suggestion at this point would to be move your orbital command maybe over to your natural here, transfer your workers, and then basically all the minerals that he's vested into this right here are completely worthless because they do nothing for him. And you can just continue up mining right here, not a problem. You did a pretty good job there. I saw when I watched the replay earlier of microing away from the Zealot. Especially with concussive shells, you should never get hit from a singular Zealot with a single Marauder. It just shouldn't happen. It's not possible. So here's the inventive stuff that I was talking about. I wouldn't necessarily suggest this on a regular basis, but I was thoroughly impressed when I saw this. So what Ashford does here is he drops an engineering bay, and then with the command center that he built inside of his base, he lifts it off and puts a planetary fortress. That is inventive, and I am impressed. And on top of that, he puts a supply depot down to block off the entrance by the gateway to prevent any probes from running out. And that I just thought was absolutely brilliant. I would not have thought to put a supply depot down to try to block off him from running. Now, unfortunately, there is a little space here, but just the thought and the idea I think is phenomenal. So here we go. Now what I'm going to tell you is that this really shouldn't be happening. Basically what you can do is if you just do that move shoot, and if you don't know what that is, you just grab your Marauders and you click behind and you hit S, you click behind, you hit S, and this, every time I do that, that brings that tab up. But if you click behind, hit S, click behind, hit S, whenever you stop, whenever you hit the S button, your units will automatically target the closest enemy to them. So you don't have to target fire those Zealots, but if you keep hitting back and S and back and S, it will hit them with those concussive shells, it will slow them down and will damage them. And in an ideal world, when you do it properly, you should never be hit by these Zealots. Up until the point that Zealots have that charge upgrade, those shouldn't hit you. So, you know, you lost your command center here. I think you realize now why that shouldn't happen. All you really need to do is lift it off and move it. The same is going to be true with these barracks here. There's no reason to lose this or this to these melee units or to this cannon. Just lift it off, move it. Heck, even lifting it off and moving it inside of his base at this point, as long as you don't fly right over this death wall here, lift it off, fly it over into his base, start building Marines in his base. You already clearly are taking a commanding position inside of his base. And again, this is one of the reasons that I picked this replay, because I just thought this was great. He starts building. He's like, you know what? If you're gonna destroy my base, I'm just gonna move to your base. No big deal. Also dropping an expansion over here. So really good things that we're seeing in this play. The fact that you're being adaptive, that's great. I think that's phenomenal. Being adaptive and doing some pretty interesting stuff with the planetary fortress. The idea, again, behind blocking him off to prevent any probes from running out, that was phenomenal. The only thing to note here is that, unfortunately, there is some space in between. So what I want to tell you, if you don't have grid set up, it'll show you it will show you any kind of spacing, or your spacing in comparison to your surroundings. So what you can do is you can just go into the menu tab, go to options, and of course my computer's blowing up here, go to gameplay, and then click on display build grid, and that's going to make it so that it will show you spaces in between any walls or any other buildings when you put down a structure. And so basically what you would see is there'd be a grid around here, and you would see that there's a space there. So that would tell you need to build another structure. But again, I think the idea that you had is absolutely phenomenal. So definitely a big thumbs up to that. And you know, even though, of course, this is super unorthodox, now that you are in his base and you've gotten rid of his Nexus, SCV production, you want to make sure you maintain that. You've got the minerals to produce SCVs, so make sure that's happening. And, you know, again, really unorthodox play, no one expects this to happen, but whenever you build new command centers or planetary fortresses or orbital commands, you want to re-hotkey those. Always use your hotkeys. You should exclusively use hotkeys in gameplay. But yeah, I just thought this was a pretty interesting replay. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully we helped Ashford out to how to improve some of his gameplay. Big things to note, that SCV that got sent out, that was a little too early. Try to go out on that 10 supply depot, walk out with that SCV. Whenever there are units in your base, make sure you know at all times where they are and what they're doing. That probe ran into your base, he hid in this corner, and basically what could have happened is if you had followed him and seen him drop this pylon, you could have just taken like 3 SCVs off the line, surrounded the pylon and killed it, and you could have avoided this whole catastrophe altogether. Although you did, again, an excellent job of responding. And then the other big thing, going to be those hotkeys. Make sure, I don't believe at any point in this game you hotkeyed your barracks, even when you were in your base and you didn't think anything funny was going on. I didn't see any hotkeys for the barracks. And that command center, planetary fortress, orbital command, whatever the case may be, always, always, always be producing SCVs pretty much nonstop. Again, like I said, until you get really late into the game and you have like 3 or 4 bases fully saturated, you should always be producing SCVs. So thanks a lot, guys. Welcome back to Community Spotlight. I'm glad to start this again. Looking forward to my new computer so I can come out with more videos for you guys. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, thanks again, and keep watching and keep owning. Get us round on them. So don't stray too far away from your tanks with your Marines. Keep them relatively close. That's, again, going to provide the best kind of safety net for your siege tanks. And then you can just kind of creep up, use the vision that you're gaining from your medevac as well.